You are almost live. You are live.
You don't want
to dedicate this class for Pinchas Eliyahu.
You just did. Dedicated
Yes.
for Pinchas Eliyahu Ben.
That's all right.
So we'll take advantage of some free advertisement. Okay. Shavuos book available in the Beis Chaman. That's what we're teaching from. Beis Chaman. That's what we're teaching from.
Good.
Okay. Well, what should we begin with? So much to do. We're going to do Hilchos Shavuos, but I said we're going to focus more on the most exciting part of Shavuos, which is, of course, the cheesecake, right? The milchiks, eating milchiks. Let's first try to do a little quick overview of reminders of different halachas that come. Okay. The days preceding Shavuos, which is, of course, I guess now you can say, already begun, second day, Mamlechas Koyanim, the Beis Siva. The Rabbi notes in the name of the Rabbi that the period of time before Shavuos is very, very precious, and one has to use his time very wisely, as in preparation of Matan Torah. Shabbos preceding Shavuos, Erev Shavuos, and there is a minhag that was started by the Rebbe in Tafshin Mem Vav, 1986, for communities to do a Shabbos Achdus, the Shabbos before Shavuos. And those who didn't do it this past week, Pashas B'Midbar, when it's usually done, and they want to do it this week, they have to be aware of the halacha. They can't start a Seudah after 3 hours within 3 hours before Shkia. It's not 3 60-minute hours or 3 Zmanius hours, which here in Tzfas, in Eretz Yisrael, would probably mean starting from around 4-ish, I would assume, that you cannot wash. So if you want to wash, you wash beforehand, or you just don't wash on bread. You have mezainis, you have other things.
4 o'clock will be the cutoff.
I said be'erich, I didn't look up in the calendar. You have to look up in the calendar, but it's for sure, now it's a summer, so every hour is about 65 minutes. And if Shkia is at 7:30, so it's about 4 o'clock, 3.5 hours.
To be before.
Right. So the truth is that the chatchila we do in such a situation, the third meal before the 10th hour. That's the halacha. But for the sake of fulfilling shalosh shudas, it is mutter if a person didn't wash to wash afterwards. But most people will try to arrange, as halacha requires. Especially in non-Lubavitch shuls. Non-Lubavitch shuls, they usually finish Shachris, Shabbos, 11:30-ish, even like the late minyanim finish like 11:30. Like the earlier, 11:30, they're already sleeping after the morning meal. But 11:30 is for the late Ashkenazi minyanim and Hasidic minyanim. So they can daven an early mincha at 2 o'clock, have shalosh shudas at 2 or 3, 4, 3 to 4. Just have to wash before 4, and then they can continue. But if you're finishing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're eating your first suda, when are you going to eat shalosh shudas? Right, so it's a little bit problematic, but the point is that we have to enter into the meal of Yantiv with an appetit, with a good appetite to want to eat all that food that was made. Regarding tachanun, as we know, starting from last night, we omit tachanun from last night, according to minhag of Hasidim, Kabbalists, and Svardim, until the 13th day of Sivan, not including the 13th. So the 13th Yud Gimel. We restart.
Ashkenazim say tachanun.
Ashkenazim and Chutz La'aretz say tachanun starting from the 8th. Yeah, starting from the 8th. Starting from the 9th. They don't say till the 8th. They start from the 9th. The 8th is Israel. They start saying tachanun from the 9th. I believe in Eretz Yisrael, everyone is accustomed to do, as I said, like the minhag of the Sfardim. We don't say tachanun until the 12th. The reason why we omit tachanun during this period of time is because yesterday, last night was Rosh Chodesh. Then we have the preparation days of Mamlechas Koyanim, all the different proclamations that God told Moshe to tell the Jewish people, which was of prestige and encouragement to receive the Torah. So it's like festive time, and therefore we have Tachanun. And of course, after Shavuos, we have the Tashlumin for the Karbanos. Shavuos was very unique in the sense regarding Karbanos in the temple. Because we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, we don't know what's going on. It's theoretical. But back in the day, Shavuos was a very different holiday. Every other holiday, think of it. You had to offer the chatchila, you had to bring your karbanis by Yantif. You had to bring your karbanis by Yantif. The Korban Pesach, you had to be in Yerushalayim. You had to be in Yerushalayim pretty much for Yantif. You had the mitzvah to sleep in Jerusalem, Lina, or the Liyah L'Regel. You had to be in Jerusalem. But by Shavuos, even though we also have the mitzvah of Liyah L'Regel, we don't bring the karbanis till Matzah Shavuos. The karbanis were only brought after Yantif was over. That's what's brought down. And therefore, so what, in essence, there were 7 days that the karbanos could be, 6 days after Yom Tov, the karbanos could be brought for. And since those were the days that all the sacrifices of the Jewish people were brought, the Eilas Re'iyah, the Eilas Simcha, the Eilas Chagiga, therefore we also celebrate today and commemorate that time by not saying Tachah. That's the reason why. But others say, listen, today doesn't apply anymore. Today, so therefore they say Tachah. Okay, different minhagim.
Is there any reason why it's Korban of Shavuos could be bring?
Yeah, the Alter Rebbe explains it. He explains it in length.
So
That's why Isser Chag of Shavuos has an Isser Min Adin of fasting, has an Isser Min Adin. Chassan is not allowed to fast Min Adin on Isser Chag of Shavuos, not just a min. You're not allowed to fast on Isser Chag of Shavuos. It's much more strict.
So what's the reason? What's the difference between why is it?
It's machlekes Beishami Basila. Beishami holds you now allowed to bring it on Shavuos, and I forget right now the reason the Alter Rebbe writes, but the Alter Rebbe brings the reason there why Beis Hillel, even Beis Hillel agreed to Beishami, and in actuality, majority of the karbanos were only brought on Matzah Yom Tov.
There's big traffic jams and everything.
Pesach and
Oh, no, they could come anytime after it. You just said they could come anytime for the 6 days.
Well, yeah, they had 6 days, yes.
Well,
The Pesach and Sukkot, they had to be there in the beginning.
right.
You know, it's just Tashlumin, but the main thing you had to bring it right away. But Shavuos, everyone brought it from the Matzah. Matzah Shavuos was the first day you can bring it.
But you had to be there for sure.
Well, you had the mitzvah of Liyah L'Regel to be there for Shavuos regardless of the karbanos.
Yeah.
But the carbon you had to bring with you, the karbanos were only sacrificed the next night. So there was a lot of meat eating going on that week, the week after Shavuos. And that's why I already mentioned now, that's why the mitzvah of Liyah L'Regel that the Alter Rebbe says, based on the Ran and other Rishonim, that is a custom even today by the Jewish people, applies after Shavuos. If you're not going to be in Yerushalayim for Shavuos, right? So there's a mitzvah to do a Liyah L'Regel after Shavuos, if you're able to. So if you're in the area, you're in Jerusalem area, you're near Jerusalem, take a quick stop to the Kaisel within the 6 days, meaning from next week, the whole week.
So if you can be there on Shavuos itself,
If you can make a special trip and be there, all the better, you know. But if you
stay
certainly,
months probably, right?
if you're Liyah L'Regel for sure, you fulfill the Shavuos itself. I'm just saying, most people who are not going to be in Jerusalem for Shavuos, so if you're able to make it during the week for Liyah L'Regel, it's a good thing. It's a minhag Yisrael to do a Liyah L'Regel for each one of the 3 holidays. So Sukkot and Pesach, you have to go during Chol Hamoed. Once Pesach and Sukkot is over, it's gone. But Shavuos, you have a whole week.
Great cheesecake back then?
Well, when we get up to it, we'll discuss it. Right? Regarding haircuts, so usually we take a haircut on Erev Shavuos. This year, nobody will be taking a haircut on Erev Shavuos, I hope, because it is Shabbos. And therefore, the halacha is practically we push it up a day. So we get a haircut. It's a mitzvah to get a haircut on Friday. We don't do it Thursday night. We do it specifically Friday, from Friday morning and onwards, from after sunrise. Okay? It's regarding haircuts. The mitzvah to make one's family members happy through buying jewelry and clothing to the females is applicable likewise for Shavuos. It's one of the big 3. So that is a mitzvah deraisa on every husband and father to fulfill. A reminder for everyone. And for the sons, it's not a big deal. They just need a little glass of wine and revius, and they're good to go. The males. On Shavuos, yes. So for the wife and daughters, you have to buy necklaces, rings, and clothing. And for the bachrim, you just give them a little bit of wine, and they're good. That's the mitzvah of simcha. Okay, we already discussed some of the Yom Tov laws relating to this year in the previous class. Just remind everyone again that we have to prepare a 24-hour candle or 48-hour candle, so we have a flame available so we can light the candles after Shabbos is over, saying Ben Kodesh LeKodesh and Avdim Kodesh LeKodesh, and then we light. So we need a flame, an existing flame, to be able to extend those who have a yard site on Shavuos, or those who are accustomed to light Yizkor candles, and Chabad is not accustomed to Yizkor candles, but those who do have accustomed to light Yizkor candles, they are to light it before Shavuos. So you do a 48-hour candle, and in Chutz La'aretz, since they do Yizkor the second day, you do a 72-hour candle.
Which is like an Arab Shabbos.
Erev Shabbos, that's why you need a 72, yeah.
Yisro candle can be the existing flame candle.
Yes, there's no issue in using the Yizkor candle for
That's why don't they use the light, the fire, because it goes from one Yom Tov to another Yom Tov?
Why don't they use what?
The light of the
You
first
can't
of
light a
Yom Tov.
Yizkor, you can't light a Yizkor candle in Yom Tov.
Ah,
It's inertial batala.
okay.
It's not considered a candle of use. If you have other intents, like you want to use this Yizkor candle for extra light, or you want to use it, I don't know, someone who, God forbid, smokes cigarettes, he wants to have a flame for smoking cigarettes, then, he's making a use for it. But if it doesn't have a use, it's just for the sake of the neshama. And the law is that you can't light it before, you can't light it on Yom Tov. It's light for you.
One more question about visiting Yerushalayim. Anywhere these days, you have to be inside the walls, or what's
The
the?
Kaisel,
Oh,
the western wall.
No, she means
Go to the western
all the
one.
way there. You have to go to Ben Yehuda and do that.
I don't think I would be too happy if you just went there.
What? Is there?
No, I said, I don't think God would be too happy if you just went there, but I'm not his lawyer, but that's what I think. That's my assessment.
Just go and breathe the Yerushalayim air anyway.
That's not the good, don't go in Ben Yehuda, go to Mea Shari and go.
That doesn't count either, you're saying, right?
You have to go to the Temple Mount, you go to the Temple area, not the Temple Mount, but the area, the Kaisel, where the Kaisel is. Yeah. Okay, regarding plants and flowers, as we know, this is a minhag that is recorded in the Paiskim. Now, likewise, that is minhag Yisrael to spread plants and stand up, erect trees in shul and in one's home for in honor of Shavuos. Two reasons are brought, one for each. The plants is because of Har Sinai. Har Sinai was a very flowery mountain, and trees is because on Shavuos we have a judgment day for fruits. In order to remind us of the fruits, and that we need to daven for the fruits in shul, so therefore we erect trees. As we know, this custom is not so prevalent anymore in certain circles, including Lubavitch. It is said that the Grod nullified it because it's too similar to the Christians. A lot of the European rabbis, Ashkenazi Rabbanim, were very, very worrisome and careful to not have any resemblance at all of Christian minhagim. And even if, according to halacha, you could write a whole tshuva explaining to the Gra why it's mutter, that wasn't the point. The point wasn't if it's mutter according to halacha or not mutter according to halacha. The point was, we don't want to have any resemblance in them whatsoever. So therefore, it was abolished, and that's practically what many of the European Jewry does. But many don't. Many go ahead and continue the minhag. They bring flowers and different things. Flowers are not muktzah on Shabbos and Yom Tov so long as they are in your vase and they are not still growing. If they're still growing, then we have some restrictions. For example, if the flower is closed, you bought roses, but the roses aren't open. So they're opening over the days. So in such a case, you can't take the flowers out, you can't put them in, you can't move it to the sun for it to open, you have certain restrictions. But otherwise, regular bouquet of flowers that are sitting on your table are not muktzah on Shabbos, not on Yom Tov, and they may be moved.
Even if they're in water.
Yeah, even if they're in water. They're in water, not in water, it makes no difference. You can take them out of the water, put them back in the water, so long as it won't cause any further opening. The only thing you can't do is prepare new water. That's a problem. You can't change the water on Yom Tov for Shabbos. On Yom Tov, you can add a little more water, but you can't change the water. Do we know anyone who passes the date line and they got messed up with the Sphira? They have a different date of Shavuos. Here I put in a picture to illustrate where did I put it? Here it is. This is the international date line according to, secular world. According to halacha, it is debated whether it's here, in China. There were some places who actually were able to pinpoint specific streets in Shanghai, which were to the east and to the west, literally. Chazon Ish said, the Bachrim who are sleeping in the dormitory on that street, it's Wednesday. The Bachrim sleeping in the dormitory on that street, it's Tuesday. This is Chazon Ish's opinion, but Tukachinsky is straight down Eretz Yisrael. The bottom line is that this is the more accepted approach, and that's why you will see in Chabad, we don't have any issues with Japan. Japan is over here. We don't have any issue with when Shabbos is for them. But a Chazon Ishnik who traveled to Japan, he keeps 2 days of Shabbos. He keeps Shabbos on Shabbos and on Sunday as well. Because if he holds that here's the international date line, so while we are holding Japan as one of the first countries to start the next day, the Chazon Ish is holding Japan as one of the last countries to start the next day. So when they're starting Saturday, when Chazon Ish is starting Friday, they're starting Sunday, they're starting Shabbos. So those who follow the Chazon Ish, they either don't travel to this area of the world, or when they do, they keep 2 days of Shabbos. So they keep 2 days of Shabbos. Now, Yom Kippur, he gave a hat to it. Says, you're going to fast for 48 hours, no eating, no drinking. So it wasn't possible. So people didn't do it. They chose one day. But regarding Shabbos, they don't do Melach. So now, right over here, if you see, there's 2 little dots. I don't know if you can see this. Literally by the line, next to New Zealand, right next to New Zealand, right there. So that's Western and an American Samoa. Western Samoa is a third world island with like 300,000 inhabitants, and Eastern Samoa is an American territory, similar to Puerto Rico. And so they have a lot of army bases there. So if you can actually travel from one island to the next in about a half-hour canoe ride. That's how close they are. But Western Samoa and Eastern Samoa are 2 different days. Literally, they're 2 different days. So right now in Eastern Samoa, American Samoa, it is, today's Tuesday, they're on like Tuesday morning, and Western Samoa is already on Wednesday. So literally you skip 24 hours when you go between the 2 lands. It's literally that way, 24 hours. So somebody who did this during Sphira, then, they either skipped a day or they added a day, and in such a situation, they would obviously be required, as the Rebbe's psak was, to keep a different date of Shavuos. Now, most people are not traveling from Western Samoa to Eastern Samoa, so you don't have to worry about that, but people do travel from Australia and New Zealand back and forth to California or South America.
Was that Mamish psak from the Rebbe?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
He didn't come right and say it that way. But
the Rebbe said a number of sikhs discussing it, and letters discussing it, and that was the Rebbe's position. That's the bottom line. Well, yes, everyone knows that the Rebbe spoke about it. It wasn't inferred. The Rebbe said it very explicitly, but he left it for Rabbanim. But when Rabbanim asked the Rebbe, the bottom line is that that's how it's paskin today. That's how we paskin today. Not everyone in the rabbinical world agrees to this. It's a big chiddush, but it's a chiddush that's forced upon the information we have from the Paiskim, that Shavuos is a personal holiday. Shavuos is different than all the other Yom Tovim. All the other Yom Tovim are based on a set date on the calendar. 15th of Tishrei, Sukkot. 1st of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah. 10th of Tishrei, Yom Kippur. That doesn't change. You can go to Eastern and Western Samoa 50 times back and forth. That doesn't change. Whenever the 16th arrives, 15th arrives, that's Sukkot. That's it. It's over. However, regarding Shavuos, since it's regarding Matan Torah, the Rebbe explains in the Sikha that it's not, in addition to the general global acceptance of the Torah, which is on the 6th of Sivan, there's a personal acceptance, which is based on your sphere somewhere. And therefore, if you're not personally ready, you're not personally up to the 50th day, you can't accept Shavuos yet. If you're personally up to the 50th day, but you're not, then you're ahead of the game. You have to accept Shavuos. You're ready up to Shara Chamisha. That was the Rebbe's position, and that's practically how we rule. So, in essence, what the Rebbe's position was, don't do this. That was really the position. The position wasn't go travel the world and then come up with problems and have Shavuos a day different than everybody else. The position was, don't do this. Be aware of this issue. But if you did it, this is what was possible. This week, this Motzei Shabbos, we have to say a special Kiddush of Yak Nahaz. Right? Yayin Kiddush Ner Havdalah, Shechianu. If anyone forgot to do so and they remembered the middle of their meal, you have to stop right away and say Havdalah over wine. You're not allowed to eat until you say Havdalah. So you have to stop eating and say Havdalah. So it's a reminder for everyone. It's a good idea that everyone in the shul, whoever the Gabayim are, to announce after davening, that everyone should remember to do Yaknahas, the order of Yaknahas.
The burning candles that you've already lit,
Right, so the candles remain on the candles that you lit for Abakas Neres remain on the table. You just look at them. Everyone just looks at them. We don't put them together. We don't put our hands near them. We say, Bar Mer Ha'esh, we give a glance, we stare at them, and we move to the next blessing of Hamavdid and Kodesh L'Kodesh.
And no besamim.
No, there's never besamim from Shavuos to, because Kedusha L'Kedusha, it says that Yantiv is the besamim. That's what it says. Yantiv is instead of the besamim. It takes the place of the besamim. Yeah. Okay, we're now up to our meal. What are we eating for the Shavuos night menu? So it's a regular Yantiv meal, which is meant to be meat. Fleishiks, you are not meant to have a milchik meal for the night for the simple reason we mentioned before. There is a mitzvah de'araisa of simcha upon us on Shavuos, on every holiday, on each one of the Yamim Tovim, the Shalosh Regalim. And the way it's fulfilled is through basar v'yayin. Now, milchiks is not basar. It may come from basar, but it's not basar. So you can't fulfill the mitzvah of simcha without eating meat. So therefore, we cannot take a minhag of eating milchiks to usurp and uproot a halacha of eating flesh. The minhag of eating milk is specifically by daytime. By nighttime, we have to eat a fleishiks meal. Those who never eat fleishiks, well, I'm not talking about them. I'm thinking of people who do eat fleishiks, so then they would have to eat a fleishik meal, and the milchik meal the next day is to be had.
Does basar mamish exclude chicken? No.
For the mitzvah of simcha, you need to have actual meat. Lamb, cow, deer, whatever, any wild or domestic kosher animal. But animal, not fowl. Okay, we have finished our meal. We're now up to Tikkun al Shavuos. Right, as this is the makar of this custom is written in the Zohar. The Zohar writes that the original Chassidim that would learn Torah. The original minhag of staying up the night of Shavuos is a Zoharic, Kabbalistic custom that we see today has been adapted by all Jewry. Everyone does it. The Alter Rebbe's Lashon Shulchan was many are custom. Today, everybody stays up, especially here in the city of Tzfas. Tzfas has a major input on the start of this minhag. About 500 years ago, this custom was only kept amongst the pious, the most elite. Everyone else went shluchim the night of Shavuos. They went to sleep. They ate their meal, filled their bellies, and started snoring. And woke up for Matan Torah the next day. Nobody stayed up the whole night, only the Yechidei Segula. It says that the Beis Yosef barely had a minyan. The Baruch Hashem, we see that things have changed, and all Klal Yisrael and all their factions stay up the entire night. What is one meant to do? So actually, according to halacha, this is based on the ruling of the Shla Kodesh, a person is meant to spend his time learning Torah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah, Mishnayos, Gemara, and this is what a lot of people do. Practically, once someone finishes the tikkun, if it's still nighttime, if it's not yet morning, then that's what you should spend the rest of your time is learning the oral Torah. But otherwise, our custom, based on the Zohar and others, is to say the tikkun, and the tikkun is quite long, so it takes a long time. This is the custom to say the tikkun is the custom of all Sfardim, based in Kabbalah. It's the custom of all Chassidim, based in Kabbalah, but it's not the custom of Lithuanian Jewry. And they learn Gemara, Mishnayos, they learn Nigla, whatever it is. As we said before, that you meant to learn Torah Shebal Peh. In truth, in the tikkun, we go through the whole Sheshes Siddur Mishnah, first and last Mishnah, etc. So we're also learning a lot of Torah Shebal Peh. We go through the 613 Tayyar mitzvahs, so there's a lot of Torah Shebal Peh going on as well in the tikkun, but there's a difference between learning the tikkun and reading the tikkun. Right? So if you learn it, it can take a long time. 2-3 days. The Rebbe Rashab would say the tikkun both nights. He'd stay up both nights and say the tikkun both nights. Yeah. read the words of the Arizal. Whoever stays awake throughout the entire night without sleeping for even one moment at all, and stays awake the entire night learning Torah, is promised to survive the year without damage. Furthermore, the direction of one's very life for that year is dependent on this. If he does not sleep at all, he will certainly not die that year. It is for this reason that the custom became widespread amongst all Israel to stay up throughout the night. These are the words of the Shar HaKavanis in the Perei Chaim. Yeah, and the ideas in the Zohar, but the Arizal explained it and the importance of it, and not going to sleep. Okay, regarding the tikkun. So there's a question that was addressed to the Rabbi regarding if you have to say the whole tikkun. It's such a Jewish question. You have to daven shachris. Do we have to daven the whole shachris? What kind of question is that? Is it daven shachris? The whole shachris. So, but yes, people ask this question, and the Rebbe answered the following: that the Rabbeim would read the entire tikkun. They're going to skip. That was the way the answer was given. Okay, but what we do see from here is that somebody who's, let's say, a beginner, he's not able to say the whole thing. So you do what you can. You do it. You work your way up. You do what you can. You do as much as you can, as much as you can accomplish. Possibly one can say that the Torah Shabbat Peh sections can be said in English. You can read it in English. Torah Shabbat doesn't have any kedusha if you're not reading the words. So it doesn't help to read it in English. So the Chumash part doesn't help. If you can't read Hebrew, it's better than nothing. But if you could, then that's what you should be doing. But regarding Torah Shabbat Peh, if you can do they have an English tikkun? Have they published such a thing? It's probably why. First of all, as I said, the Lithuanian jury doesn't do it. So Art Scroll, all the major English publishers, they're not interested. And probably people would say there's no tikkun to do it in English. The tikkun is to say in Lashon HaKodesh. Okay, I don't know. Maybe that's what hasn't been done.
What about completing during the day, finishing during the day?
Right. So when can you read the tikkun? The Rabbi Shavuos will begin saying it immediately after Hadlakas Neiros of Shavuos, meaning in a regular year. This year we can't do Hadlakas Neiros till Tzezek Echavim, but meaning he would already begin saying it before Shkia. So this year, at least starting Shkia, we can say that you can begin saying it already. You're anyways in Shul, you're between Mincha and Ma'ariv, you can already begin saying the tikkun. And after Ma'ariv, do on all the breaks, you can already say it. You can say it on the meal, during the meal. At the meal, yeah. You can say during the meal. So in essence, the tikkun begins as soon as it is Shkia. You can already begin saying the tikkun. Now regarding until when can it be said? So if you didn't finish it that night, then you can finish it the next day. We say it the next day. That was the directive of the Rebbe Rayatz. You shouldn't just say, well, I did whatever I could. The night's over. I'm done. You should still continue saying it. It still has an effect during the daytime. It is customary to recite the Tanakh portion of the tikkun prior to midnight and the oral Torah after midnight. This is not so well known. I don't know why. But this is a mimer of the Alter Rebbe. What I just read is the Alter Rebbe wrote that. And that you do the Chumash part before Chatzos, and you do the Torah Shabbat Peh part after Chatzos. That works out according to the worlds, that according to Kabbalah, the Torah Shabbat Peh is more shaykh to after midnight. And we know usually Torah Shabbat Chsav we don't learn before midnight, but Yantif of Shavuos is an exception. It is proper not to speak any mundane speech throughout the night, so writes Or Tzadikim, a student of the Arizal, and therefore a person l'chatchila should not make interruptions during the tikkun. When you make interruptions during the tikkun, you have reasons for need of more tikkunim. So therefore, it's really meant to be said straight, consecutively. If you're able to, obviously a little break here and there to help you continue afterwards is okay. But the point is that a lot of people start schmoozing. You schmooze for a half hour, you go back, you schmooze again. So it's not supposed to be done that way.
Drinking coffee, getting alarm.
No, that's okay. That's to help you stay up. That's so you don't fall asleep in your tikkun.
You need coffee to stay awake.
Yeah, of course.
Vitamins, whatever.
Women should women be saying the tikkun? Should they be staying up all night?
Sati,
According to Kabbalah, as writes the Ben Ish Chaim Rav Poalim, women are not to say the tikkun. Just tell them women don't need tikkunim. That's what they always tell me. They don't need tikkunim. They're always fine. The women are fine. They don't need tikkunim. They don't need to say it. So now we agree with you once and for all. We agree. You don't need a tikkun. Everything's perfect. That's the sheet of Kabbalah.
There is a minhag here in Svat. Your husband.
What's that?
There is a minhag in Svat for the women to say tikkun.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Stay awake, not to say
In Miami,
tikkun.
there was
To
also
stay
such a-
awake.
So what about staying awake?
No, it's not a minhag amongst women. There's no isser. There's no isser for them to stay awake. They could,
There are shurim.
especially if
They
there's
have
going to be
shurim.
shurim. Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
So
I don't
good.
think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's
That's not tikkun, you're right.
it depends what's done. I remember in Miami they used to have, and don't have to mention names, but a certain individual would have a get together of men and women Shavuos night, all learning together, men and women together. What kind of tikkun is that? It's a tikkun that you need to do tikkunim for. You know, learning chavrusas, Kabbalah, anyways, from Orthodox,
Yeah.
modern Orthodox. Anyways, they're good intentions, that's for sure. Okay, the custom is, this is recorded in the Arizal, that we immerse in the mikveh by Ashmurus Habayker, which is before Alais. So if you're following the sheet of Avim Chaim Noah of 120 minutes, so it's probably, I'm looking to write Alais here, let's see. It's, no, they don't have Alais, but I can tell you the errors. If Zricha, sunrise is about 5:45 now? Anyone know? Where are we holding in sunrise now in Tzfas?
5:35.
No sunrisers? We have no sunrisers here? We're all rich men, huh? We're all rich men waking up, living it up.
Chabad don't done.
Oh, Yerushalayim. It's 5:35, yeah.
5:35.
5:35 is sunrise. So the Alter Rebbe's Alais is probably about 3:30, maybe even earlier. Maybe even earlier. Between 3 and 3:30 is probably the Alter Rebbe's Alais.
So we could go
I would assume
before.
it's 3:08. That's what I would assume. I have to look. So that would mean that we would go before 3, which in essence means that from the time you finish your meal, because don't forget this year it's later than most years because you can't begin preparing anything till Tzezek Echavim. So till the meal is ready, until you're done your meal, there's not that many hours. It's really not that many hours of staying up. So we go to mikvah before that time, during Ashmurus Habayker. So it's about 2:30ish. You're ready right now to mikvah.
And finish your tikkun.
Tikkun you can do on the way to mikvah, you can do after mikvah, you can do while you're
But
sleeping,
the
you can
point
do
is to go, you need like before 3:30 approximately.
before Ashmurus Habayker. Before, within Ashmurus Habayker, before Alei Shachar.
What's the point? What's the reason?
That's
for
the
that?
time, that's the time
what's
when
the
we get
reason?
the special ha'ara of Kesser, and we need mikvah for it. What did that Arizal say before? Stay up the whole night, you have all these special blessings, right? You have to be a kli. How do we make ourselves a kli? When the highest time is about to be reached, the end of Alais, start of Alais, we're going to mikvah beforehand. We immerse 4 times, says the Arizal, Keneged Yud Kei Vav Kei, so we do 4 tefillas, that's all it means. Doesn't mean get dressed 4 times and go again. We go in and out 4 times, but the Arizal also says 4 times, meaning don't do shy tefillas, 310 tefillas, while everybody's waiting, the guy's busy dunking 310 times. They say as a joke, you already did shy, just do minyan shaita. Shaita means crazy. Do a little bit more, you do already the gematria of shaita.
How to finish the tikkun by then, which I have not.
Yeah, so put it aside, do your mikvah.
Start again? You're not starting from
Start from where you left off, you have the whole day. You also have in between davening, in between the aliyahs, he's going to be doing Misha Berach for 5 minutes. It's already between every aliyah, you have already a half hour there saying tikkun. You can say tikkun the whole time, whenever you want.
Stay up early at that point, or go to sleep and do it later.
Yeah. We go to sleep before davening. Some are accustomed. So machlekes in Pesach what to do when you've stayed up the whole night, whether you should go to sleep and then daven, or you should first daven and then go to sleep. So I say is that the machlekes is only in theory, because in practice, you're going to end up going to sleep and then davening. Because you ever see these minyanim where people are sleeping in the middle of davening? Some of these guys in Middle Shmonesser, they're already sleeping. You know? So it's just a theoretical dispute what to do, but practically, you're going to be sleeping before davening or during davening. But in any event, our minhag is to literally go to a bed and sleep and daven later, as we know. Exactly. But some are accustomed, the way they say is that those who are strong enough, those who are strong and are able to stay up, then they should, that's what others follow.
What about Kriyas Shema?
Kriya Shema of the morning? Kriya Shema of the morning, if you've stayed up until Aleis HaShachar, then you can say it. Ideally, Kriya Shema of the morning can only be said from Misha Yakir, which is 60 minutes before Nates. We just read before Nates here is about 5:35, so that means you can say Kriya Shema starting from 4:35. Okay? So Kriya Shema for the morning, you can start saying from 4:35, but if you want to go to sleep, you're so tired, it's 4 o'clock, you're falling asleep. So you're in a big pickle now, because if you don't say Kriya Shema and you wake up past 9 o'clock, it's over. 9 o'clock is in 5 hours. You may miss it. On the other hand, what do you do? So in this situation, because of no choice, better just say Kriya Shema now. It's after a life and not Torah Yaitse. Even though D'Rabbanan you're not supposed to, but not Torah Yaitse. So just say Kriya Shema now, and that's it. And also after the Al Tebas Alais. So if it's after, let's say, Al Tebas Alais, let's say we said before is going to be at around 3:30 or 3. So say Kriya if you can't, if you're going to fall asleep in Malah. So say Kriya Shema just in case. If you woke up late, you have what to rely upon.
Morning blessings.
Yeah, we're up to that now. So morning blessings. So as we know, our minhag is, we had a day on Sunday on this. Our minhag is that we say all the morning blessings, even though we have not slept, but only once a lace has arrived, and with exception to Asher Yatzar. Asher Yatzar we don't say unless, of course, we have used the restroom. Or if we have not used the restroom, then we do not say Asher Yatzar. We skip Asher Yatzar in such a case.
So right after the mikvah, say the blessings.
It has to be after Aleis HaShachar.
So that's
3:30.
world. That's
No, you have to wait for the latest opinion of Aleis HaShachar. Safek Brachas Lahakam.
Which is?
72 minutes. It's probably, probably I would assume it's around 4:15-ish. Something like that. That's what I would assume. You have to look at a calendar, but that's what I would assume.
so Shema. It's also then.
No, Shema we said before. There's a few different calculations. Judaism's confusing.
So you don't wait till you say brachos to say Shema.
No. So the order's like this. As soon as it's near Aleis HaShachar, whichever Aleis HaShachar you want to follow, let's say you want to follow Grachma, the 120 minutes. So let's say it's close to 3 o'clock, you make your way to the mikvah, you dunk, now it's after Aleis. Now, even though you followed the early Aleis for dunking, you can't follow the early Aleis for blessings. You have to wait till everyone agrees that you can start blessing. Safek Brachas Lahakam. So you're going to have to wait till about 4:15-ish. 4:15-ish, you can say the morning blessings. And then you have to wait till Misha Yakir, so you can say Shema. Once you've done all that, then you can go ahead and go to sleep.
Okay, so 4:15. The Shema. 4:15 is okay roughly for blessings when the Shema come in roughly.
After, I said, it's 60 minutes before sunrise. So here it's the sunrise is 5:35, so 4:35.
Well, you said 72 minutes after.
No, that's Aleis. That's for blessings, it's 72 minutes.
So it's not
For
4:15.
Misha Yakir,
It's not 4:15.
no, it's 72 fluctuating minutes. It's not 72 minutes on the clock. You have to look at a calendar. I'm
So
assuming
it's
it's
about
around,
4:15.
it's usually about 15-20 minutes before Zricha. That's why I said it. Before Misha Yakir. You have to look at a calendar. You get a calendar, you'll see. But that's if you want to do it that way. You can also do it that you go to mikvah. Some people do it this way. They go to mikvah before the Gaf's knows Shita of Alter Rebbe. Say they go to mikvah at 2:30. They're back home already at 3:15. They go to sleep. As Alter Rebbe says, it's already morning. That's it. I stayed up the whole night. So he goes to sleep and he wakes up at 8:30. He says morning blessing, Shema, eats cake, goes to shul like
He wakes up.
If he wakes up, yeah.
If you do that, you get.
Yes. So these are the different approaches.
There's always 15
They're all good.
minutes.
Whatever approach you want to take, you can take.
What's the minimum time you must be awake? The minimum time. Minimum.
The whole night. The minimum is the whole night.
All night, but they also have all night to do it.
Oh, you're saying till what time? That's what we just said.
Huh? Tikkun?
Till Aleis HaShachar. Other people, other customs, they take different positions regarding morning blessings. So, if you're in Litvish areas, you'll hear, did you say Birchas HaShachar? Did you say Birchas HaTorah? Can I be Yaitze from you? Can I hear L'Kai Neshama from you? Can I hear Ma'aver Sheina from you? What's going on? What is this, like a shopping cart? The guy is shopping all of my brachos. Yeah, they hold you can't say the kind of shama because it's a subject. That you can't say ma'avashein according to Mishabur because it's a subject. That you can't say bechazatayr because it's a subject. They hold all these vekas, so because of that, they don't say the brachas. So you can have one chassid will be a shliach to visit all the Litvish shuls to be mitzvah them the brachas. I pointed out to Rabbi, only you to brachas we have 10 people. I once got into this big argument, not an argument meant in terms of fighting, but just a discussion. If he wanted to be Yitzis for me, the brachas said, no, according to Al Rebbe, you can't be Yitzis for me, the brachas, we don't have a minyan here. So how can you be Yitzis for me, the brachas? And so it kept on going back and forth. How can you be Yitzis for me in any of it? But they have to figure out a way to get a shliach tzibur to sleep. Usually there's always someone who falls asleep for a half hour anyways. You say the brachas according to all the opinions. And that's what you always know is they don't make sure to wake everybody up who fell asleep. There's always one guy. Yeah. Undisclosed. They don't. Okay. The next day, the next morning, Mishal Tov Mitzlachas, we've made it. We received our Kesser. We are now in Shul. Okay, I'm going to skip most of these parts just because we don't have time. They really apply to every Yom Tov. The only thing special that we have regarding the davening part of the day is, of course, by the Torah reading. Many communities say Akadamis, which is different paragraphs written in the Siddur. Our custom is not to say it, even though it's written in the Siddur. The Rebbe would say the Akadamis. We don't say it. Our custom is not to say it. The Rabbi would say Akadamis, yes.
The piyutim?
Piyutim, yeah. We say Yud Gilul Midas Arachamim, just like any Yontif, right? And regarding the Torah reading, so the custom is to stand for Aseres Adibros facing the Torah scroll. You have other communities who don't stand. It's a machlekes. Some stand, some don't stand. The reason why some don't stand, I believe we already discussed this a few months ago when we were discussing in Siman Aleph of saying Aseres Adibros daily. We said that the Rebbe wrote in the Shulchan Aruch not to do so, not to say Aseres Adibros in order not to take out one section of Torah, make believe that that's the whole Torah. People will think, all you have to do is keep the Aseres Adibros and I'm good. So they hold, that's how the Rambam holds. Don't stand for Aseres Adibros. Don't discriminate between don't make changes between any parts of Torah, because then the Apikars are going to think that's the main part of Torah, not anything else. So this is a big problem in the Sephardi world because a lot of Sephardim are accustomed to do like their old custom of standing for Aseres Adibros, but a lot of the Rabbanim hold like the Rambam that you're not allowed to. So you see some people standing, some people sitting, and almost kavua you have back and forth arguments between Rabbanim, Sephardi Rabbanim about this, whether to sit or not to sit by Aseres Adibros. It's very interesting, but it's like every year they go through the argument again. It's like Chazar, the same argument again. They say the joke of the Rav was in a shul and of a person who went to visit a new shul and he sees a big machlekes. Do you stand for this part of davening? Do you sit this? The person says you stand. The person arguing with his neighbor who's sitting. Oh, chaos. He goes over to the Rav and he says, Rav, why don't you take some charge of this place? Just tell them what the minhag is and then settle it once and for all instead of having a big argument whether he should stand or sit. So the Rav looks at him and says, are you kidding? This has been the minhag here for over 50 years already. The minhag is to fight, to argue over whether you should stand or sit. Anyways.
What about us? What about us?
What we stand. That's our minhag. We stand and face the Sefer Torah. That is our minhag. Yes. As we know, the Rebbe made a big stir and a big tumult that we should try to get every single Jew, even a newborn baby, Jewish, right, to show up for the Aseres Adibros, as just as the Psikta, the Medrash says, that by Aseres Adibros, Hashem considers it as if all the children of Israel are there once again receiving the Torah. That's why we try to have every neshama possible that will be there. But this doesn't mean that we can trample halacha for the sake of making these minyanim. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of good and well-intended people trying to do Mivtza Aseres Adibros, but without the proper knowledge of halacha of how to do it properly. For example, there's no heter to walk around with a Sefer Torah on the streets and say, Aseres Adibros minyan, Mivtzayim, Aseres Asim is done, and so on. Yes. Yeah,
We're here.
Not here in Yerushalayim. And we gave them over the head. We gave them over the head. They were innocently doing it. They didn't understand what they were doing was wrong. But we put a stop to it. There's no room even to do pre-arranged Kriya minions in the middle of the street. You're not allowed to take Sefer Torah out from the Aron. You have to bring the people to the Torah, not the Torah to the people. That's the halacha. Another issue is that if you already Yetze Kriyas Torah, you can't do another Kriyas Torah.
Unless you have 6.
You have to have 6 that didn't hear. So the question is, what some of these people do is that they hear Kriyas Torah, They say, if I happen to be needed for a minyan, I'm having in mind now to not be yait. So the question is, well, does it work? So I wrote a heter on this saying that if anyways you're usually doing this for children don't have an isser bracha levatala, so you can do the aliyahs to teach them the brachas. What I'm saying, I'm not really doing aliyahs because we all heard kriyas atayir, but I'm doing it for the sake of them hearing the brachas. So I'm just saying that these things all have to be done, of course, according to halacha, for the miftzayim to be 100% kosher as intended.
Dancing with the Torah, Simchas Torah outside of English.
No, that's something else. Simchas Torah, we have a lot of leniencies that we apply. This is one of them. We read Megillah Shavuos in the Tikkun. We don't read it in public during the day. Litvish jury does read it. Sfardim don't. And so there's different minhagim regarding that.
Night.
I have no idea. Every Hasidic group does something else. I don't know what they do. I know we don't. That's all I can tell you. We increase in reading Tehillim on Shavuos for the reason that, of course, David HaMelech's Yartzeit was either the first day of Shavuos, second day of Shavuos, whatever it was. Okay, here we go. Tehillim.
3 times.
3 times. I'd be happy if you read it once. First? No, there's no Tehillim. No, there is some Tehillim, but it's not the whole Tehillim. Yes. Okay, let's go. We said our main course, the Yom Tov meal, the Yom Tov day meal. Let's get straight to it. So here we have to first clarify the main points. Being that, as we emphasized earlier, there is a mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov, which means to eat basar and drink wine. Every male has an obligation to drink a revius of wine on Shavuos day. Okay? Those who can't drink wine, they can't have alcohol, so what can you do? You have a revius of grape juice.
That's in addition to Kiddush.
If it's in addition to Kiddush, I wrote over here that it can be counted as Kiddush. But in any cases of doubt of whether I drank enough alcohol, the Ramah says, Toiv leiv mishtatov, b'machem. So b'machem. If you don't know if you've had enough drinks, b'machem.
Is it a reviut you have to drink in a few minutes, or it's a reviut that
Probably within 4
something
minutes.
like that.
Within 4 minutes, yeah. Most likely.
even during the
Intent.
meal? I mean, not
Yeah,
talking
most
about
likely the
Kiddush.
intent was within 4 minutes, yeah. Okay, so that is, now, we know that in Chassidus it's explained that eating on Shavuos has a special emphasis greater than all the other holidays. As we know, it says in the Gemara that on Shavuos, everyone agrees you have to eat. Other holidays in Chalekes, you can dedicate the whole day to Hashem and fast. But Shavuos, everyone agrees you have to eat. Kula moedim ba'atzar shabina nami lechem, says the Gemara in Yevamos. You can't fast for a tightness chalayim on Shavuos. So we see that we have all of these greater emphasis on eating food on Shavuos. As the Rebbe explains, that's to emphasize the whole purpose of Torah is to penetrate the world. It's not to negate the world, make ourselves, removed from the world to become ascetics and saints, that we live in monasteries away from the whole world. That's a very Christian and non-Jewish. No, but before Chassidus, this was a approach in Judaism. Before the Baal Shem Tov. Yeah. So the Baal Shem Tov taught us no, and this is emphasized by having meals, by eating, that we draw down into the world. So the minhag Yisrael, the Alter Rebbe writes, the minhag of all places of Jewry is to eat dairy products on the first day of Shavuos, so we don't eat the second day, even if you're in Chutz La'aretz, we only eat the first day. There's no issue to have a coffee with milk on the second day. We're saying the minhag, it's not the minhag of milk, it's not the second day, it's on the first day. And he writes here, it's the minhag of all Jewry. It's a very interesting wording because we don't find this word in all Jewry in other poskim. And I had one person complain to me, how can you write that it's a minhag of all Jewry? It's a lie. I'm Yemenite and we don't eat milchiks. So I answered back to him, an answer that was the only answer I could find at the time, was that Yemenites always causing problems. Always causing problems. Even this you have to argue. Just eat milchiks, what's the big deal?
They don't know if it's ever.
Listen, there are so many different sects of Yemenite Jewry. He does not speak for them all, I guarantee you. In fact, just by him saying that, probably 20 sects just decided starting in If you know Yemenite Jewry, you know what I'm talking about.
They follow the number.
All Yemenites?
Yes.
Not true. No.
What?
Nope, not at all. Majority of Yemenites follow the Shulchan Aruch. Not the one.
Not the one?
Nope. There are many, many sects of Yemenite Jewry. Many, many sects. And they're very different, and they have a lot of politics and machlekes and different opinions and different minhagim. What are you talking about? Do you think there's only one Yemenite thing? We look at it as if all the Yemenites are the same. Go talk to them. Why do you think in Bnei Brak there's another Yemenite shul for every 5 Yemenite Yidden? And there's different communities, yeah. They say, it's not a joke, they say that Ezra Sefer person, there's a tradition that Ezra Sefer, when he asked everyone to come back to Yerushalayim for the second temple, the Yemenite jury who had a lot of the Levium, they were not interested, we like Teiman, we enjoy life. So he cursed them, he said that you're never going to have peace with each other. That's what they say.
Yeah, really?
That's what they say. That's what the Yemenites say. I'm telling you what they say. That's what I've heard. I've never researched this. Maybe it's written. Could be it's a medrash. I don't know. Maybe it's a medrash. Maybe it's written.
Somebody can see.
Okay. Anyways, getting back to our point. So it's a minhag of all Jewry, including Yemenite Jewry, to eat dairy products on the first day of Shavuos. There are many, the Alter Rebbe writes, many reasons have been said. We have all the reasons, a lot of the reasons recorded here, and we can pretty much categorize the reasons into 2 different categories. One is reasons that explain that the main thing isn't the milchik per se, the main thing is the 2 meals. We want to make sure we're going to be eating 2 meals on Shavuos day, and how do we obligate that by having a dairy and fleshik meal? Because if I'm having 2 fleshik meals, what is the halachic precedence? What is the halachic permission and allowance to split the meal in 2, bench, and then start again? You're not allowed to add in blessings. So just continue the meal into 1 big meal. Just because you have this idea of making 2 meals, you're not allowed to just stop a meal in the middle. But if I had a milchik meal, then I have to bench in order to have a fleshik meal. So having a milchik and then a fleshik meal necessitates us to have 2 meals in
Why do you have to have 2 meals?
Oh, very good. Why do you have to have 2 meals? The Rama says, because you don't have to, but he said, this is the minhag. The minhag of eating milchiks is to force us to have 2 meals. And why do we have 2 meals? To commemorate the Shtei Alechem offering that was brought in the temple.
So theoretically, you could have 1 large Gesund Suda and 1 very small.
Finish. In the temple era, they would bring the 2 breads, which were made of chametz. Only it was unique. The only time of the year that you were allowed to bring chametz to the temple was Shavuos. Already everything's refined enough to elevate even chametz. And so to commemorate this very unique carbon, there was never a bread carbon. There were carbonas which consisted of bread, but the main thing was always the meat. The meat. The main thing was never the loaf. You order a sandwich, you order a burger. Imagine the guy gives you a tiny little piece of meat and you get a huge loaf. He says, the main thing by our restaurant is the bread. You'll never come back to it again. When you order meat, it's meat. All the carbonas were meat. It comes with a side dish of bread, of menachos, but the main thing was the one exception is Shtei Alechem. The main carbon was bread. It came with some meat. It came with a few lambs. Don't worry about it. It had a few lambs with it, but the lambs were the secondary. The bread was the primary.
So you're saying
So to commemorate the bread, we have 2 meals. Bread's 2 meals. That's the rule.
Even if you don't
we have to
say
wash
what's
on the first day?
Oh, based on the Ramah, you have to wash.
That's
And
both.
based on the Ramah, it doesn't matter if it's a large meal or a small meal, as long as it's 2 meals of bread.
So theoretically, you could have cheesecake in the morning, right? And on the mazonas of the cheesecake, you could wash on it. And then have your dessert meal later in the day.
You can decide when to have, you can decide how to arrange it. But according to the Ramah, you would have to have 2 meals of washing on bread. Now, that is not our custom. Our custom is not to wash on bread unless you're eating a large amount of mezainis, and then it's nothing to do with your custom. According to Allah, you have to wash. If you're going to be, chewing down, 6 barakas, lasagnas, blintzes, eating enough for King Solomon on his table in his day, you got to hamaitzi, wash and bench on what you're eating. You don't even need other bread. Just that itself is already considered a kriyas suda. Because it's baked, all baked products that you eat, a certain amount of them will be satiated from, require washing and benching. How much is it? It's not that much. I mean, it's a lot, but when you think about it as what's generally done in the Shavuos milchik meals, it can come pretty quick. It's 330, it's between 220 and 330 grams.
You just said that you don't do extra mazonas requiring washing. You said it wasn't our custom.
We don't specifically wash on bread, but I'm saying if you have set up in front of you, barakas, all these different baked mezainis products, and you're going to come near that line of where you're already having a meal. so you have to wash on the baked products, then just wash.
If you don't do that, you just said before that we definitely have 2 meals and you have to wash after the meal.
That's the Ramah. I said we don't hold, we are not accustomed like the Ramah's reason.
So what did we do then?
We have mezainis, okay, and we have milchiks. We say an after blessing. I'll go through the rest, but we have mezainis instead of a meitzah.
And that can be whether it's breakfast and then.
Yeah. So in yeshivas, what they do is they have cheesecake. Not even mezainis. They have chahakal cheesecake or ice cream. Yeah, literally ice cream. It's very strange. About yeshiva serving ice cream.
That can be in the morning when you wake up,
If
an hour before you.
If the Alter Chassidim and Mashpim of Lubavitch would see it, they would literally melt. No pun intended.
So that can be morning, or that can be an hour before you flush it.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. So what is
But the custom is to do it after you do your davening, you have your milchik meal, you do the order we're going to say, and then you bend. We're going to say the order, okay? We didn't say the order yet. The other reasons explain. We're not right on the reasons, okay? So the first reason is saying the main thing is not the milchiks. The main thing is to create a need of 2 meals. The other reasons all explain that the milchiks itself is important. To actually eat milchiks for different reasons. The Torah is compared to chalav. Chalav is pure, is representing like before Matan Torah, we consider like a woman who's a nida, which is impure blood, and then she becomes pregnant as a child, which is purity, pure milk. There's all these different allegories that the idea of milk is compared to. Har Sinai being a cheesecake, right? It says Hargav Nun, David HaMelech said that there was a big cheesecake, Har Sinai. We have all these different midrashic reasons. The Alter Rebbe, we reviewed this in the previous years. Just to remind everybody, the Alter Rebbe gave is a tradition from the Alter Rebbe that he gave a very interesting explanation of why we eat milchiks. And that it was transmitted by the first Chabad Rebbe Tzfas. You know the first Chabad Rebbe Tzfas? He probably wasn't the first, but he's the first known Chabad Rebbe as far as we know. His name was Rabbi Shaya Horowitz. He lived in Tzfas in the 1900s, in the early 1900s. And he wrote a sefer called Pardes Haaretz. He later moved in 1927 to Winnipeg, and he was a Rav there for 30 years in Winnipeg. And then he moved back, and he's buried here in the Chabad section of Tzfas. So he was the first Chabad Rebbe. He was the part of the Bezdin of the city. He was the major of Tzfas of the city at that time. And he wrote in his book of Pardes Haaretz, he writes a tradition that he received in the name of the Alter Rebbe for why we eat milchiks. He says the reason is because the Medrash, so he says the following, that eating milchiks on Shavuos is emphasizing the main cause of how we got the Torah. Now, what is having milchiks have to do with getting the Torah? Because we drank coffee with milk and we're able to stay up during a certain difference. What's the connection? So he says that the Medrash in Medrash Rabbah Tehillim writes that there were few litigations of Malachi Asharis against the Jewish people from receiving the Torah. During one of the later litigations, they said this is by the second Luchas, when Moshe went out for the second Luchas, the third set of 40 days. So they said, Hashem, it says in your Torah you can't bow down to idols. The Jewish people bow down to idols. They forfeited the rights to the Torah. Give it to us. Give it to the Malachi Asharis. So the Medrash says like this: Hashem turned to the Malachim. Last time I had Moshe answer. I've had enough. I'm answering you guys myself. And he said like this: all day you're causing shalom bayis problems. All day you Malachim. You're just causing shalom bayis problems. Almost like marriage cancer. All day just causing problems, making more tightness and more tightness. I've had enough. And then he told the Malachim, he said like this: you're complaining the Jewish people broke the Torah, they bow down to idols. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Don't you know that even a little child knows that you're not allowed to eat meat and milk together? Even a little child of the Jewish people knows this. And you guys, go visit one time in your lives. You go visit Avram Avinu, you sushi a meal, and you eat like a guy, like a shegis. Milchiks, fleishiks together, chema, v'chala, baka, sharasa. So now don't come with titles of Bnei Yisrael, and you should get it. Okay, so just be quiet. And they were quiet, and Bnei Yisrael got the Torah. That's a medrash. That's not the Alter. That's a medrash. Alter Rebbe asked this medrash. I guess the angels were either dumb or they didn't have a good lawyer. I mean, they didn't eat it together with all due respect. They had milchiks and inflations. In fact, tell you a secret, we do that in Shavuos. That's what we do in Shavuos. We eat milchs and inflation. So what kind of response did Hashem give them? So the Alter explains amazing. Sounds like the kids are like this. The whole reason why we don't eat milk and flesh together is because Kabbalistically, the roots of meat and milk cannot mix. They're not allowed to mix. Meat is rooted in gvura, severities, while milk is rooted in chesed, kindness. Now, when you mix the two together improportionately, improperly, it can cause an explosion. It can cause something spiritually, it causes spiritual damage. The only way to do it is mix it in a very, very careful way that the chesed refines the gevura, and not the opposite. The gevura usurps the chesed. So that's why we are accustomed to eat meat. We wait 6 hours. We don't want any mixture with the milk. Because if we would eat meat and then eat milk within 6 hours, it would usurp the light of chesed of atzilus and use it for bad. So we have to separate. However, in the opposite, when we eat milchiks, we don't eat 6 hours. Why? It says the following. We have a rule that tatar govern. It's a rule in the laws of kashrus. That let's say something cold fell in something hot, so we say the hot wins because the hot's on bottom and it penetrates taste into the whole food. But if the bottom was cold and top was hot, we say that it cools it off. The bottom cools off the top, and it can't penetrate taste. It's a rule in kashrus. So it's also when we first eat meat, what's on bottom of our stomach? The meat. The meat is gvura. So if we then milk, it takes over the milk, the chesed, and uses it for bad. So we wait 6 hours. When we first eat milk, what's on bottom? The milk. So if you eat meat within 6 hours, it's able to sweeten the gvuras and use it for good. So we don't have a problem with that. That's why we don't wait 6 hours to milk and inflation. It's only between milk and inflation. I'll tell you explains like this. However, that's only down here in this world. This world holds that the lower wins. The lower worlds is the purpose of creation. What are the malachim saying the whole time throughout all the litigations? The whole purpose of the upper worlds. They hold the ilaga. They hold the top wins. So Hashem told them, if you hold the top wins, if you really believe that, why when you went to Avram Avinu did you first have milchiks and then fleishiks? By having first milchiks, what's going to be on top? The fleishiks. You hold fleishiks with. It means you ended up usurping kedusha into klipa. So it must be you agree that the lower world wins. We follow the Torah. It's not Torah's explanation. It's really interesting.
Could I add on about the 2 meals, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we came out on the midbar, so we had what to eat from what we carried with us. And in the Chumash, we got then the instruction about shechting at this particular time. So they had to wash all the kalim from what had contained milk, etc. And that's why there are 2 separate meals.
That's another reason. That is another reason offered. I didn't go through all the reasons, but it is another reason offered, yes.
It's in the book.
It's in the book, yeah.
A question for you. You mentioned in yesterday's halacha, the fact that there's another reason also that that before Matan Torah, milk was considered derivative of blood.
Considered chalav even nachai.
But then how did Avram serve it to Malachim? If it's not considered,
How did he eat it himself?
either one. It doesn't say he ate it, but he served it to Malachim.
How did he have it available?
Because if it was forbidden to even to a goy, how could?
Could be Avram Avinu had the knowledge that it wasn't also according to Torah. He knew, he followed the Torah as it was after Matan Torah.
But he still, but all the different explanations that he had to, even though he followed Torah, he also had to follow
Correct.
Sheva mitzvahs, even more important.
The answer is like this. Basically, some Mephoshim say that the whole reason why we eat milchiks today on Shavuos is because until the Torah was given, we weren't allowed to eat dairy because it's Ever Minachad. But what I believe what's explained is like this. And the Pesach will explain the following. When the Torah was given, it revealed that the Isser of Ever Nachai to begin with was never intended against milk. Avram Avinu already knew that information. Avram Avinu learned the Shach in Siman Pei Zayin. He knew that. So he knew that milk to begin with was never included in Ever Nachai. But not everyone was Avram Avinu. So most people had to avoid milk because they didn't have this information. That's a possible answer. I don't know. That's a possible answer. Anyways, let's finish this off on eating milchiks. Technically, as I said before, you could fulfill your obligation eating prior to prayer. If necessary, prior to davening, you can have milk, cereal and milk, cheesecake, whatever it is. That can also technically fulfill one's obligation of the minhag. Other minhagim related to milchiks, Shavuos, that's similar to the minhag of milchiks, is to eat honey products. Honey is also, the Torah is called dvash. So we know b'achnas l'cheder, we give the child honey. To eat specifically wheat bread in commemoration of the Shtei Lechem, which is made of wheat, not spelt, not anything else, specifically wheat. Cumin, they added cumin. It says it's a good spice, was added by Matan Torah, in commemoration of Matan Torah. Okay, the order. When we finish eating milchiks, the order is, bottom line is that we say an alamichi or bichas hamazon, whatever it is that we have to say, and we wash out our mouth and wait an hour. Now, how do we wash our mouth? So it's with a drink and with a food. So we wash it out obviously with a liquid, and we chew a solid in order to, to clean it out. We can't brush our teeth, but it's yantiv, but that we can do. So that's called kinuach and adacha. We wait an hour, and only after an hour do we begin the fleishik meal. This is the most mechuder way of doing it. It covers all of our bases. There are certain leniencies. Not everyone waits an hour. Not everyone requires you to wash your mouth. Not everyone requires you even to bench. I mean, there's different. This is the way it should be done, and this covers all the bases that we have to cover, as writes the Shulchan. Now, a few things we have to be careful. We have to be very careful when we're buying all these exotic cheeses to make sure we're not purchasing 6-hour cheeses. Okay, the way to find out if you have a 6-hour cheese is either to look at the hashgacha or to do the research. Look it up, look up the name of the cheese, because during Shavuos time we're flooded with a lot of 6-hour cheeses. A 6-hour cheese can be a cheese that has been 6 months, in the processing, or that is very pungent, like a lot of the blue cheeses can be considered a 6-hour cheese. So those are things you have to be aware. Parmesan can be a 6-hour cheese. A lot of French cheeses. You have to be careful to get this stuff. We'll mention something we mention every year. We'll conclude with this: that when you're making cheesecake, if you're using biscuits, as is the minhag of the cooks, then you have to make sure not to use biscuits that have engraved letters, because we can't break those letters on Yom Tov or Shabbos. So we have to use non-engraved letter biscuits, or use pie filling, use something else, use a pie crust, something else, so that's not available.
Or scrape off the letters before.
Yeah, that's another option, scrape off before Yom Tov. It's a little burdensome, so you can just buy without. In any event, regarding the bracha of cheesecake, so usually cheesecake is mezainis, as usually it contains flour in the recipe. And if it's baked, then we go by the mezainis, which is the main thing. However, if there's no crust of mezainis in the cheesecake, and it's not baked together with mezainis, and the flour that's in it is only for the texture, then it would be shahak. Wish everyone a Kabbalah Satayru, Simcha Lupnimius, a good Yantif.
There's a lot of material in one shot.
On Easter Chag, what you doing? What's the meaning of Easter Chag? The day after.
What do we do?
Yeah.
What do you mean, what do we do?
Make a seuda, another seuda.
Yeah, we always make a suda on Yisro Chag, sure.
A cake, another cake, cheesecake.
You can have a fleishik soup.
That was just wine, right?
Huh?
That was just wine?
Matzah Yantif is just wine, yes. Even though we missed the summon, we don't redo it.